Welcome to Semper Fi. I am your host, Mark Bonstein, or as I was commonly referred to as Staff Sergeant B. We'll get to my guest in a second. First, we're going to do our what happened in the military at this date and time. A joint operation by the Army and the Navy. In 1864, a closely Confederate Army-Navy expedition departed Beaufort, North Carolina on the USS Britannia. And in the Coast Guard, in 1920, the first Coast Guard air station was established at Morehead City in North Carolina. The station was closed on July 1st of 1921 due to lack of funding. And in the Marines in 1944, the 22nd Marine Regiment captured Albany and named a U.S. in the Marshall Islands, one of the islands in the Marshalls. And the Air Force, nothing happened on this day. So, not everything has to happen all the time in the military. So, without further ado, my guest was former Army, came in 1974. So, please welcome Bob Sharreck. Welcome to Semper Fi.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
All right. Give us a little down on your history of when you came in and what you did.
Well, I went into basic training in Fort Knox in November of 1974 and did my basic and AIT there in Fort Knox. Was 11 Delta, which is a scout armor unit, and from there I was transferred to combat support 1st and 63rd Fort Riley, Kansas, and joined the Army and see the world. Well, if Kansas and Kentucky are the world, then I saw the world. Because I did the rest of my 2 years right there in Kansas.
Oh, you did?
Yes, I did.
Never went anywhere else?
Never went anywhere. We were to go to Germany, and budget cuts, they cut it back, and fuel crisis of the mid-'70s. Does that sound familiar? Everything was cut back, so we just kind of stayed right where we were at. Matter of fact, the fuel crunch got bad enough that they were afraid that if something happened, they didn't have enough fuel to do the jets to get us to where we needed to go.
Really?
To load the cargo planes.
I remember in '74 when the gas was bad. It was starting to go through the crunch back then. So how was boot camp for you when you went in?
Boot camp was, you did what you needed to do, and you did what you were told to do, and, it was 6 weeks of yes, sir, no, sir. Don't say sir to a sergeant. Don't do that, and it was interesting. And then fast forward 30 years, and I go to my son's graduation from his boot camp before he goes to Iraq, and he pulls out this little card in his pocket to show me a stress card that if he gets stressed out in basic training, he can go sit down and take 5 minutes. Now, I'm sorry, but what are you going to do when they're firing at you? Are you going to wave your little card at them?
Yeah, sure, why not? You need a timeout, you need a timeout.
Hey, it's too stressful. I need to sit down. I can see me telling a drill sergeant in 1974 that I'm stressed out and need to sit down. Yeah, I got a feeling that I wouldn't be able to sit down. But, the military has changed quite a bit over the years. I think that the 2 years I did was a good 2 years. It was interesting. AIT was real uneventful. Fort Riley was real interesting. We had some real good times in Fort Riley. We had the river right outside Fort Riley flooded, and we had to go rescue almost 100 Boy Scouts that were doing a little jamboree on the other side of the river, and they were stuck over there. And they thought it was the coolest thing in the world. We were over there with APCs, personnel carriers, dropping them down so they could get on and get over. And I tell you what, those kids are probably still talking about it.
Any other memorable stories from boot camp? When I went in '77, we got hit once or twice, or 3 or 4, or 5 or 6.
Oh yeah, middle of the night, wake you all up and get you out there and just decide that they're going to go for a walk. 2 o'clock in the morning, we're going for a walk. Well, if 10 miles later is a walk, And you don't understand. Some of the stuff you do, you just don't understand. Why are we going for a walk in the middle of the night? You can't see anything. You can't do anything, you know, but the Army had its reasons, I guess. I mean,
he liked his midnight strolls, that's all. He didn't want to be alone.
Yeah, they, you know, it was the first time that I had ever fired a weapon, was the M16, and it was real interesting to see how the thing worked and take it apart and put it back together and see how fast you can take it apart and see how fast you can put it back together and see how many parts were left over when you were done. They seem to tend to believe that all of the parts came out of it, so all of the parts should go back in. They don't believe in spare parts. I mean, you know.
You didn't have 2 fireman pins?
Yeah, I guess not. You know, I mean, you know. And that barrel thing, it's kind of important that it's on there. You know, it's not just laying on the side over there. You know, it's kind of an important part. You know, and you know, but we learned how to shoot the M16, the M50. 50 cal was probably the coolest thing that I ever fired.
Yeah, I like shooting that one.
I liked shooting the 50. The 50 was really cool.
I got 2 of the casings at home. I'm going to bring them in, put them up here so somebody can see the size of a 50 cal. It's a good size shell.
It's definitely an attention getter. It really is. I mean, you know, that thing's got to be what, 6-8 inches.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, without the tip, yeah. Just the shell itself is about maybe 4 or 5, and once you put the tip on, you're looking at easily 6 to 8 inch, like you're saying. It's a big casing. A lot of gunpowder in there.
It was needed. It really was needed, and you know, I don't know. It's changed over the years. I mean, I think that the stuff they're doing today, the military that they're doing today, is a lot safer for the boys over there. These drones and everything else.
Yeah. Well, I've heard that. I've had a couple guests, and they said that the military's outdated the M60 machine gun. Now it's only found on the ships, and that was the weapon I used to lug around, was the M60. And so when I asked other guests on the show, they said no longer. And now because now it's taken up by the SAW, the Squad Automatic Rifle weapon, which is like a mini M16. A little bit bigger machine gun. I never got to shoot it when I was getting out. There was just, you know, they were still coming in with them. They weren't really pushing them all the way. And I did get to shoot the Beretta when that first came out, and I was not used to that, and I think I squeezed off 3 rounds. The gun about shot out of my hand as I was shooting it. It was so light that the recoil went bang, 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 bang like that, and I was trying to catch it. And I had to go back and requalify with it because I wasn't used to it. After handling the 45, you know, you got something. If you're not paying attention, the recoil of that come back and knock you in the head. So that Beretta, that was different. And now I got the Ruger, which almost, no comparison with 45, but it's got somewhat of a little kick to it. Not like a 45 again, or 357s. So,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you were talking about, early before the show, you made a comment about my favorite, C4.
Oh, when I was getting ready to be released from Fort Riley, a couple of days before, we had a demonstration for armament and C4 and other explosives and how things worked and everything. And I had a master sergeant that tried getting me to re-enlist and stay in over the demonstration. We went out to the range and they showed us how C4 was set off. And we go out there and they set up a block of C4 and they set the blasting cap in it, and they come back and they wire it up, and she doesn't go off. Doesn't go off. And the sergeant says, anybody want to go down there and find out why? And I was like, well, you said it's got to be wired up, so why not? So I picked up the blasting cap, picked up the plunger, put the plunger in my pocket, went down and put the blasting cap back in the C4, and I came back. Sergeant says, why did you take the plunger with you? And I said, you said that that's how it went off, and it was safer if it was with me, so that's what you said, so that's what I did. So I come back and I wired up and I set it down, and he says, you want to set it off? And I said, yeah, sure. So I stand on top of this berm, and there's this big old, you know, bunker here. And he goes, "You really want to get down here?" I said, "No." I said, "I think this is going to be really cool. This is going to be fun to watch." He's like, "No, you really want to come down here? I think you really want to come out." Well, no, I got to do the old John Wayne thing and stand up on top and just look at it and hit that plunger. I never knew what concussion was until that thing went off. And I was about 15 feet back sitting on my butt. And he just going, "I told you." But, you know, it was interesting. I probably will always remember that. But it was cool. It was really cool to see.
It was worth
Oh, yeah.
getting knocked back.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, you know, the crater that thing made.
I always loved, whenever we went to the grenade range and a grenade wouldn't go off, we had to stop everything, call EOD, and they would come out. And EOD was never in a hurry. So it would take them anywhere between 45 minutes an hour. And then one of them would just get somewhat close, not real close, but you know, a little bit further than what we were allowed, take out his gun and shoot it, explode it, and go, "All right, we could have done that." "No, you're not EOD qualified." "Oh, God, you got to be kidding me." So,
how qualified do you have to be to go out there and
shoot a grenade?
Yeah. I mean,
why don't you go out there and just kick it next time? You qualified.
Yeah, you know, throw a rock at it.
You could have anything.
Yeah.
But he just, you know, he comes out there, pulls out his .45, and he shoots it a couple times. Finally hits it. Excuse me. And all of a sudden, you know, like, okay, we'll see y'all later. And they wouldn't even stick around in case it happened again. It just, they took off, and we went back to pitching our grenades. That was.
And if it happened again, there you sit waiting for them to come back.
Another 45 minutes. We're sitting there eating our MREs and just waiting for EOD to show up. So, oh.
I remember when we were in basic throwing grenades. We were throwing the dummy grenades first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's practice with the dummy grenades, and that's probably a real good idea when you go to throw one and it falls almost at your foot or a foot in front of you. Yeah, it's probably a good idea to have the wooden ones that you're throwing first. It's probably a really good idea. You know, they tell you to pitch that thing. You know, not just,
yeah.
You know.
You ever have a midair burst? Just when they throw it, explodes right practically over your head, and it showers down shrapnel all over you. That's fun.
Now, during World War II, my mother tells me that she worked at a factory that made hand grenades. And she said her job was putting the pins in. And she said, God love my mother. She said they got her in a room. She said, they have me in a room all by myself with these great big thick walls. And I'm putting the pins in, and there's nobody else in this room but me. And I'm thinking, gee, Mom, I wonder why you're in there by yourself, you know? I mean, gee, go figure. And it was before the war, it was a company that made mothballs. And after the war, they went back to making mothballs. So how you take a mothball company and turn it into an armor, you know, an explosive company, I don't know. But, you know, it was just, you know, I mean, it's amazing what this country did during World War II to step up to the plate and do what needed to be done and make sure that it was taken care of. I mean, Dad was over there fighting and Mom was over here doing whatever she needed, from, you know, the famous Molly the Riveter on down, you know. I mean, you know. Yeah, I'm dating myself when I talk like I remember this stuff, but, you know, I think it's getting lost over the years. I think that the kids today don't have any idea, you know, what goes on. I really don't. I mean, like I said with my kid with the stress card, you know, come on, let's be realistic. This is the military. This is life. This has got to be. I mean, we have to have this. You know, I think it's great to see us having more support for our troops than we had.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know, coming back from Vietnam and being spit on and called baby killers and everything else, the Vietnam vet did not get the...
No, they didn't get what they deserved.
No, they did not. They did not. And I've got a lot of friends that are Vietnam vets that came back and, you know, and, you know, and it was no different than any other, just because it was never officially called a war.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, it was still what needed to be done. And I know we don't get into politics, but as far as I'm concerned, we let them down when Saigon fell.
Yeah.
We let them down. I think that you know, there was a lot of stuff that went on that I don't know about, that I don't understand, but I think that it was almost a futile thing when it all collapsed like that.
Yeah.
You know, but
Yeah.
it's not for us to know.
No.
It's not for us to question. That's the same thing. We did what we were told to do, and that's what we did. And you know, they say you do it, you do it.
That's right.
You know,
We were always following orders.
that's it.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. So get a cup of coffee and join us.
Left foot, left foot, left foot. All right, let's jump. All right, lay up. I left it right, let's jump. Left it right, lay up. All right, lay up. All right, lay up. Left it right, let's jump. Left it right, lay up. All right, lay up. Left foot, left foot, left foot, left foot. All right, let's jump. All right, lay up. I left it right, let's jump. Left it right, lay up. All right, lay up. All right, lay up. Left it right, let's jump. Left it right, lay up. All right, lay up. All right, lay up.
All right, welcome back. Talking to my host, Bob Sharreck, and we were just talking about a little part of Vietnam that neither one of us, you weren't in Vietnam, were you?
No, I never left country.
Yeah, my Sergeant Major, he lives out here in Henderson, as a matter of fact. He was, when he retired, they had a picture of him on the front of Time magazine when the fall of Saigon, when they were clearing the embassy. He was on the wall. He was wearing the sateens back then, and he kept knocking the people off the wall so they wouldn't get up and over. And that you were talking about how they weren't treated. And that just always reminds me of my old Sergeant Major. I think he put in close to like 25, 27 years. I worked under a lot of Sergeant Majors. He was one of my better ones that had a lot of respect for. He was good people. And I imagine he's only a little bit older than me, so I know he's still around. And he tells me he frequents the Leatherneck Club up in Vegas that I like to go to every once in a while when I got somebody that can drive, because I don't want to take a chance driving from there to here on those roads. You won't pass the sobriety test. Okay, so what other interesting things did you do while you were in?
Well, I was stationed at Fort Riley, and our big thing during the summer was to train the ROTCs. We'd bring the college kids out there and get them trained in ROTC, and they'd show them everything. These guys were going to be our future officers. Yeah, our future officers.
I can tell you have a lot of respect the way you're saying it.
We had a college student, an ROTC candidate, who was running late and didn't make the safety class for the 45.
Oh.
But he felt that it was okay that everybody was going across to the range to shoot the 45, that as long as he blended in, he could just shoot the 45 and he'd be okay. Nobody would even know that he was late. Seemed like a good idea, except that the safety class for the 45 is kind of important. It's kind of important to know how to put the safety on and to take the safety off of the 45 and the instructions that are going to be given on the range. These are just little details that are given in the safety class that this young man decided that he didn't need. So they get out there and they're firing the 45s. And the range instructor says, cease fire, put your weapons down. He's got a couple of rounds left in his weapon. Well, after cease fire, nobody's shooting. They announced range clear. Myself and Spec 4 Powell stand up out of the trench and start dropping targets, pulling the targets down. This young man, who's going to be one of our fine officers, has several rounds left in his 45. Doesn't know what to do because he didn't make the safety class. So he decided the safest thing to do was dump the rounds downrange. So he empties the rest of his clip downrange after we're already standing taking down targets. They gave us the rest of the day off. They would not tell us who the fine young man was because we both wanted to go up and thank him for giving us some excitement for the day. They just told us to take the rest of the day off. But they thought one of us got hit. They really did. I mean, they were yelling for medics. They were yelling for everybody because we went back down and we weren't coming back up until we saw people. We were just in the bottom just waiting because we had no idea what was going on. I mean, I never thought that we were going to have live fire exercises in Fort Riley, Kansas in the middle of summer. Neither one of us got hit. Neither one of us got hurt. And for all I know, that man is still an officer someplace. He may be one of our senators, for all I know.
Always a good time.
You know, but yeah, we had some real good times out there. We learned a lot. I think that any young man, personally, I think that any young man, the best thing they can do is there is no more draft, and I understand that. But I think that any young man should go do his 2 years. I think it teaches them discipline, teaches them respect, teaches them morals, teaches them a lot of things that I think that kids today are just lacking. And, you know, I mean, I'm dating myself when I say that, and I understand that, but the kids today, they just, you know, the whole generation, it's just, can't explain it.
Everybody gets on the show says the same thing, that everybody, you know, it's an honor to serve the country, and everybody should. You know, it's nothing wrong with it. Like you said, and the other thing is it helps you mature. You grow up. You're given a lot of responsibility that you wouldn't normally get anywhere else. You know, you're given details to go do, and, you know, not the biggest detail out here is to worry about if that burger is ready to be flipped. You know, you're given situations out there that are really going to make an impact on somebody. You go out and you do what you have to get done. You know.
Well, I know I did a lot of growing up.
I think we all did when we were in.
You know, the dog ate my homework excuse just doesn't work in the service.
Over there, they hold you accountable. When you screw up, you're held accountable.
Exactly.
And sometimes they punish everybody just to show the teamwork and the unity, to say you're going to work as a team.
Oh yeah, one person messes up and everybody pays, and that's all there is to it. You know, I mean, we had, you know, we'd go out in the middle of, you know, we'd go out on maneuvers and stuff, and, you know, yeah, it was peacetime, but we were still doing maneuvers. We were still making sure that we knew what we were doing. We were still doing the teamwork, and the teamwork and the camaraderie is just, it's huge. It's huge. There is no I in team, and that's just all there is to it.
Yeah, I remember one particular situation. We were stationed on Camp Pendleton, and we were down on the beach, had the family, and these two Marines, they start hooking and jabbing. They just start fighting. You know, and the wife says, "You're going to get up and break it up?" And I said, "No, they got to live with each other. They got to deal with this. They got to, you know, this is what they got to do." So I left them, and the other Marines broke them up, and they all started calming down. Next thing you know, these two were hugging, and, you know, they were all better. That's like you said, it's that you got to trust you, because one day I'm going to be in a fighting hole, and you're going to have to watch my back. So whatever beef they had to clear the air from it. And I didn't get involved because that's what they needed to do, because they live in the barracks. I didn't live in the barracks anymore. You don't know what goes on in barracks life anymore. Well, now they have all 3-man rooms. But when we lived in the barracks, everybody was close, and everybody watched out for everybody.
When I was stationed at Riley, we had 4 men in the room. And we always were envious of the married personnel because they were heading home at the end of the day. And,
right.
And if they needed somebody for something, they were always coming into the barracks and looking for the poor guys that were hanging in, that were in the barracks.
You ain't doing anything.
So we got 2 new guys in our room, and I heard somebody call that they were looking for volunteers. And I looked at the guys and I said, "Okay," I said, "we're going to show you something, and this is something you need to learn." And they said, "What's that?" And I said, "We're on the 2nd floor. Outside that 2nd floor window is a ledge, and you're only 10 feet from the ground. You will not get hurt jumping down the 10 feet, and you'll be out of here before they get up here looking for people." So the new guys crawl out the window, jump down the ledge, and didn't bother to tell him. Sergeant Major knew all about the ledge, and he was standing out there waiting for the first 5 to jump down because those were the volunteers he'd take. And we used to just stand in the window and wave at the new guys as they went off and did whatever they needed them to do.
He just baited the trap. I like that. I asked for volunteers, they just fall out of the sky.
Pretty much. Sergeant Major just standing there, just smiling.
There's one. There's two. All right, go over here. That's pretty good. At this time is when you leap right to where he wants you. That's good. All right, so we're coming down to the last minute. I want to thank Bob for being on the show, and I have a little something for you, a little Semper Fi chip I have.
I appreciate that.
Oh.
And it was really great being on here. I appreciate it, and it was fun. It was real fun.
I'm glad you had a good time. And like I say, with an estimated over 5,000 veterans in Nye County, you have a story. I want to hear it, and I want to share it with everyone else. So until next week, we'll see you then, and take care. We'll see you next week. So Semper Fi.